Hey guys, and welcome to another rogue build. I hope you're all doing well. So far we've done a raid slash PvP DPS spec and a tank spec, but today we're going for a pure PvP DPS spec, if you understood all of that. This spec can be very useful, especially with the amount of DPS and control abilities that it has. So as usual, I'll go through the spec itself, then the rotation, including the ability bar, and then the cruel alerts that you can use just to help you with that extra bit of DPS. So let's go straight into the spec itself. So as you can see, the spec is Assassin, Nightblade, Marksman. Specifically 61 points into Assassin, so full tree in Assassin. 15 points into Nightblade, with 5 into Burning Rage, so this is going to increase your attack power and weapon damage. A couple of points into Blazing Fury, 5 points into Coup de Grace, increases damage of your finishers by 10%, which is very good, increases your damage by quite a lot. 1 point into Twilight Force, which is an ability which will slow the enemy's movement speed. And Advanced State of Sloth. Enemies affected by State of Sloth take 10% more damage from the rogue. Oh, and then also 1 point into Flame Thrust, which is just deals additional fire damage per combat point. Wait. Hey guys, and welcome to another rogue build. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you've enjoyed the videos that I've created so far. So we have already done a raid slash PvP DPS spec and also a tank spec, but today we're going to be focusing on a pure PvP DPS spec, and that's if you understood any of what that meant, which I hope some of you did. This spec can be very useful, especially with the amount of DPS and control abilities that it has. And as usual, I'll go through the spec itself, the rotation, including your ability bar, and the cruel alerts that you can use just to give you that extra bit of DPS. So starting with the spec itself, the roles that you're going to want to be using are Assassin, Nightblade, and Marksman. Breaking the points down, you're going to put 61 into Assassin, so a full tree build, and then 15 points into Nightblade, and the distribution will be 5 into Burning Rage to increase your attack power and weapon damage, 2 points into Blazing Fury, which increases the damage of your combo point generating abilities, Coup de Grace, which increases damage of your finishers by 10%, which is a lot. Twilight Force, which is a very good ability, reduces the enemy's movement speed by 30% for 6 seconds. Advanced State of the Sloth, enemies affected by this take 10% more damage from the rogue, so that works really well with that. And then also 1 point into Flame Thrust, which is a finisher. So there's the spec itself. So let's move on to your ability bar and the macros that you're going to want to use. So we'll head straight into the macros, because then we can go through where those are on your ability bar. So macros, you can just copy and paste, well, not copy and paste, but you can copy these macros as you wish. So your first macro is going to be your PvP spec opener. So this is the abilities that you're going to want to use on your opponent before you engage on them, or after you have engaged on them. These are like the first abilities that you use. So Exposed Weakness, which is this down here, increases physical damage taken from the rogue by up to 143 for 20 seconds. And this doesn't break your stealth, so this can also be put on your separate ability bar when you are invisible. And then cast Jagged Strike, which is another ability. So you're going to want to put that on your number 1 spot. Next is your builder, so your point maker. So copy and paste all of these. Show Backstab, cast Backstab first. deals, like, basically for me 4k damage, and it's only usable from behind. So basically this is going to be used after you've done that first bit of opening damage, after you've broken your invisibility. So you can copy that and put this in your number 2 slot, and then on your 3rd slot you want your finisher, which will be Final Blow and Flame Thrust. You then have your 4th macro as your, well, I call it my leaping macro, so let me find it. Here it is. So it's a leaping stun combo. So the first one, you want to show foul play, which is this, stuns for 4 seconds. And you always want this to happen first. But if it can't happen, so you're not next to your target and you want to jump to them, cast the leaping plunge. And this is basically just an ability which basically you jump onto your opponent and you root them for 2 or 3 seconds, I think. So basically you can just find an enemy, hit this twice, so you would leap to them, root them for however long it is, and then you can stun them for 4 seconds, which is just 4 seconds is a ridiculous amount of time where you can get out so much DPS. On your next slot, which I have as Q, is Impale. So this is another of your finishers which deals damage over time, and it actually deals quite a lot, and it will just increase your DPS. So basically, I'll go through the rotation in a minute, or the whole rotation, but basically you're going to want to use this finisher before you use any others, just so you can get the bleeds going. On your next ability is Puncture. So this deals a small amount of damage, but ignores armor a minute, and it also does extra bleed damage over 10 seconds. So you can just use this whenever you want, and it's just to deal, again, a bit more damage over time with that bleed. And then your next ability, Enduring Brew, which is your small heal that you have. Poison Malice you don't really need on your ability bar, but you can if you want, just to manage when you use it. But it's in one of the macros beforehand, so you don't have to have this here. And then the last 3 things, Stealth, Slip Away, and Conceal. Conceal and Stealth are the same thing, but I just like to have them there just to fill my ability bar up, because I like doing that. So Conceal makes you invisible when you're not in combat, and then Slip Away can be used in combat and prevents damage from breaking stealth for 3 seconds. You then have other abilities that shouldn't be on there. Neither should these two, sorry. So you have Blinding Power, which confuses an enemy for 10 seconds or until damaged, which can be very useful for when you want to run away, or just so you can get into a better position to backstab them, for example. And then Poison Gas, which is similar, but affects all nearby enemies for 6 seconds or until damaged. So this is good for getting healers. If no one's focusing them, you can just get all the healers out of combat for a few seconds, so you can just kill their DPSs. And then I also have Foul Play there, just so I can have a clearer view of when it's on cooldown and when it's not. Thread of Death, which also doesn't have to be on your ability bar, as it's in one of the macros beforehand. Elusiveness, which you can use when you're stealthed, as it says as it does. No, wrong way. It does as it says. Greatly reduces the chance of being detected while stealthed for 5 seconds. Leaping Plunge, so this is the ability in your number 4 macro, so it leaps to the enemy, deals a small amount of damage, and roots for, as it says, 2 seconds. And then I have on the double up here, which just increases movement speed by 50% for 5 seconds, which can be used to either run away from your opponent or to catch up to them. Now with this spec you've got 7 buffs. You can only use 3, and the 3 that I prefer to use are Malicious Poison, Leeching Poison, and Debilitating Poison. This should give you the most DPS. So there's the all of your abilities done. So now I'm going to show you the rotation. Now I also forgot that you need 3 extra abilities. So let's go invisible or stealthed. So you need 3 extra abilities here. So Even Terror or Evan Terror, however you would like to pronounce it, can only be used while stealthed, confuses the opponent for 2 seconds, and that goes through damage, so it confuses them for 2 seconds no matter what, unless they cleanse through it or something like that, and it deals a small amount of damage. Lost Hope, which incapacitates your opponent for 45 seconds or until damaged, so this could be useful just to basically escape or stop the opponents from grabbing the what's it called, like in Library of the Rune Masters, stop them from grabbing the whatever they're called, I can't remember. And then Hidden Veil, which delays the breaking of stealth from damage taken for 15 seconds. So these are 3 very important abilities, and you must have these on your stealthed bar. So let's go through the the rotation itself now. So you're going to want to go invisible. You may have to use elusiveness if you're around enemies so that they can't see you or have a less chance of seeing you. You either want to open up with 2 or 1, most probably 2. 1, sorry. You could use 2 just so you can get into a better position, because if they're running away you might want to just stop them so you can get right behind them and save your leaping plunge. So, oh, we have someone else attacking. But let's go straight into 1. So use your ability, this will then unstealth you. You're going to want to spam your number 1 ability twice, just to put on those 2 debuffs on the enemy. And then spam your number 2 ability until you've got your finisher, 5 points, and then hit Q, which is your bleed over time. So let's go through that again. So let's go invisible. We're going to go up to the boss, not the boss, the enemy. Spam your number 1, straight into 2 clicks of your number 1 ability, just like that. And then from there, if your opponent's already got away using one of their jump abilities, you can leaping plunge onto them. So let's give you an example, like that, and then you can stun them by hitting 4 again, and then that has a 30-second cooldown. And then go back into spamming your number 2 ability till you've got 5 points, and then do your number 3 finisher. You obviously can use your puncture if you want to, but I don't always use it just because it's harder to find, so you can assign that button to a different ability to a different button just to make it easier for you. And then you obviously have your heal if you're getting slightly low. Okay, so now let's move on to the cruel alert system. I decided to move because that place where I just was got really busy. There was like 10 people just spamming all their abilities, and I can't be bothered with that. So if we go into the cruel alert stuff, so open up your cruel alert. Now there's only one alert that you're gonna really want to be using, and that's your impale buff when it comes up. So this is your Q ability, which is your bleed dealing damage over time. So basically you want the system to alert you when it's not on your opponent. So basically I would go into getting my 5 points and then instantly use this ability, and it lasts for 20 seconds? Yeah, it lasts for 20 seconds. And after that 20 seconds, this system will then alert you that that buff or debuff is no longer on your enemy, so your DPS will come down slightly. So basically you always want to have this this buff on your opponent. So just copy the setup as I've done here. Obviously enable the alert by clicking that and save, and that should just increase your DPS by a teeny bit, but it's worth it. So that's it for today's guide. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully it's helped some of you to create a nice DPS spec that you can use often. It's very useful, again, just because of the amount of DPS it has, and also the stun locks and the confusions that you can deal or apply to your enemy. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see some of you next time. Remember, if you like or enjoy any of my videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and hopefully we can see you next time. See ya.